Period 4, the early modern era, was from 1450 to 1750. It was mainly based on interactions between different cultures around the world that brought them together.
Let's start off with Western Europe. The Roman Catholic Church was just beginning to accommodate Europe's shift from feudalism to nationalism and had developed a reputation for being corrupt. Because of this, there was a large uproar from numerous people, known as the Protestant Reformation, who disagreed with church practices, including Martin Luther, who made the 95 Theses. The Roman Catholic Church, one of the most important religious institutions of its time, wouldn't let itself get shamed like that. So they launched the Counter-Reformation, increasing punishments and launching missionaries named Jesuits. Although the Counter-Reformation was successful, Catholics and Protestants got involved in the 30 Years' War, a struggle for power, which resulted in famine, starvation, and disease. Not long after, the Puritan Revolution, or English Civil War, occurred, comparable to the Magna Carta in that it shifted the powers that Parliament and the monarch had. Charles I signed a petition, but then ignored it, which was a mistake, because the leader of Parliament, Oliver Cromwell, beheaded him. This was followed by the Scientific Revolution, which was a period of advanced European scientific thinking, and then the start of Europeans and their expansion around the globe.
This brings us to our next topic, the Columbian Exchange. With all the Portuguese, Italian, and French out exploring, Christopher Columbus wanted his own shot. He begged the Spanish to let him attempt to find a new westward route to Asia. We all know how this ends. He finds the natives in America, believes it is India, makes unfair trade deals, and comes back to Spain with his treasures. The Columbian Exchange was the spread of ideas, food, animals, technology, and diseases from the old world of Europe to the new world of America, and vice versa. As other Europeans started arriving in the Americas, the encomienda, hacienda, and mita systems were formed and utilized. The Portuguese and Spanish both wanted land in the Americas, so the Treaty of Tordesillas divided South America unfairly between the two countries. Also in the Americas in the modern era were the very prominent Aztec and Inca civilizations, which were both brought to their downfall due to Spanish conquistadors such as Cortez and Pizarro.
Moving right along, the Songhai Empire was built around the main city of Gao on the Niger River. It was made popular due to trans-Saharan trade. Sunni Ali was the ruler of the Songhai people and was obsessed with the conquering. He conquered Timbuktu, a place of Islamic learning, and was repressive there to the scholars. Sunni's nephew, Askia Muhammad, was next and built many Islamic schools and mosques. He traveled to Mecca and was tolerant. Dahomey, an African city-state, grew stronger because its locals stole slaves from other villages and sold them to European merchants. This launched the Atlantic slave trade. Enslaved Africans were sent to the Caribbean islands as a labor force. The cotton, sugar, and tobacco crops that they were forced to farm were sent to Europe, where they were manufactured into goods sent back to the African tribe leaders.
Next is Russia. During the European Reformation, Mongols had control over the Russians, so there was no rebirth of any sort in Russia. Russian princes grew rich collecting tribute for the Mongols, and they soon started to rule themselves. Russia was in a very important place in terms of trade. It could trade in all directions, and some of their exports were grain, leather, iron, and wood. Ivan the Great ruled from 1462 to 1505 and was a prince of Moscow. He called himself a Tsar, which comes from Caesar, so people thought he was tied to the esteemed Romans. Russian hierarchy was the same as in Kievan Rus: Tsars, then nobles, then merchants, then peasants, who then leased to serfdom. Ivan the Terrible ruled from 1547 to 1584 and expanded further east, making the empire larger. Stroganovs hired peasant warriors to fight the local tribes in order for Ivan IV to control eastern fur trade. Moscow soon had the Caspian Sea, which let Russians trade with the Persians and Ottomans. The time of troubles was when Russia was without a leader and almost an anarchy. Then, the National Assembly chose Michael Romanov to lead, which created the Romanov dynasty. By the time of Peter the Great in 1682, the whole Westernization movement was just being born, and Peter visited Western Europe, drawing inspiration from their naval and military techniques. Because of overtaxing and overlaboring, treatment of Russian serfs ended up deteriorating hugely with the arrival of Tsarina Catherine the Great. Catherine's rule was very similar to that of tyranny, and a man gathered serfs and peasants to rebel in the Pugachev Rebellion. Both Russia and the Ottoman Turks wanted the land around the Black Sea. In 1853, the Crimean War started, and Britain and France, fearful of Russian expansion, sided with the Ottomans. The Russian loss and opposers of serfdom convinced the Tsar to abolish serfdom.
The Islamic gunpowder empires were the Ottomans, Safavids, and Mughals. All of them relied on firearms to conquer and control their territories and had leaders that had Turkic backgrounds, spoke a Turkic language, and picked up the pieces left by fallen Mongol khanates. The Ottoman Empire was the biggest of the three gunpowder empires and lasted for 600 years. Mehmed II conquered Constantinople, renamed it Istanbul, and made it the empire's capital. Devshirme was a system used to staff Ottoman military and government. Christian boys aged 8 through 20 were taken, converted to Islam, and trained for their specific area of expertise. Suleiman II ruled from 1520 to 1566 and conquered many territories. Suleiman ordered the construction of many mosques, forts, and other buildings, and reformed the Ottoman legal system. The Safavids had a strong military and leadership, and created a theocracy. Shah Ismail, the first ruler, conquered Iran at a young age and used Shia Islam as a unifying force. Shah Abbas I ruled from 1587 to 1629 and brought the Safavids to their zenith. A man named Babur created the Mughal dynasty when India was in chaos. Babur's grandson, Akbar, expanded the empire to the south and west. Akbar created a civil service and employed paid government officials. Akbar was also tolerant of every religion and enjoyed religious discussion. Under Akbar, trade flourished and commerce was carried out by Arab traders. Some of the goods were textiles, tropical foods, spices, and precious stones. All three of the gunpowder empires declined due to European pressure, harem politics, and corrupt leadership.
Finally, we have East Asia. After Kublai Khan's Yuan dynasty was overthrown, the Ming dynasty from 1368 to 1644 came to be. The Ming economy prospered, especially the silk industry. Ming rulers wanted to erase Mongol influences and therefore wanted to revive Confucian customs and beliefs. They also brought back the civil service exam. In 1644, a peasant revolt led to the reign of a minor court official, Li Zixing. The Manchu in Manchuria pretended to aid the Ming, but ousted the official and started the Qing dynasty, 1660 to 1911. The Manchu were different from their citizens and not that tolerant. Emperor Kangxi, a Confucian scholar and poet, resided over a period of stability in China. He conquered a couple Central Asian areas and urged the building of schools. When the government became corrupt and started raising the tax rate, peasants that wanted the Ming dynasty back organized the White Lotus Rebellion, which was brutally shut down. Early modern Japan had just seen the fall of reigning shoguns, and problems with landowning daimyos left the country in chaos. 3 daimyos rose to unite Japan, and the Tokugawa shogunate that followed reorganized Japan and took control of the feudal system. The hierarchy in Japan was first the warrior class, then peasants, farmers, artisans, merchants, and the Ida. When Christian converts caused disruption to Buddhists in the 1580s, the Japanese banned Christian worship, and eventually all foreigners. 16th century Korea survived multiple Japanese invasions, isolated itself to preserve identity, and created an easier writing system.